Sean "Diddy" Combs built an empire that reshaped music, fashion, and fame itself. From chart-topping producer to one of hip-hop's first billionaires making, Puff Daddy wasn't just a mogul, he was the movement. But now, locked away in a federal prison, his $400 million legacy hangs in the balance, and the people circling that legacy are his own flesh and blood. In a twist no one saw coming, Diddy's 7 children are reportedly lawyering up, not to defend their father, but to strip control of his fortune out of the hands of the last person holding the keys, his 85-year-old mother, Janice Combs. And that's where things get messy. We're talking about 7 heirs, spread across multiple mothers, soaked in luxury, raised on private jets and designer brands, now preparing for a battle over money, power, and influence that could rip their family to pieces. Janice, a tough-as-nails matriarch who's been with her son since day one, isn't going down without a fight. But insiders say the kids have already spent millions while Diddy's behind bars, and some of them want control now, not decades from now. Behind the scenes, lawyers have been quietly called, allegiances are shifting, the jets are still flying, and somewhere in that chaos, the empire Diddy built may be slipping beyond his reach forever. So what happens when money, power, and family loyalty collide, while the king of bad boys sits on the sidelines, silenced in a prison cell? This isn't just a legal dispute, this is a dynastic implosion, and if even half the rumors are true, the battle for Diddy's empire is just beginning, and it could leave no one unscathed. Because when the crown is up for grabs, family can become the most dangerous threat of all. For decades, Sean "Diddy" Combs was untouchable, a hip-hop powerhouse who didn't just ride the wave, he created it. From launching Bad Boy Records in the 90s, producing icons like Biggie Smalls, to becoming a fashion mogul with Sean John and a power player in vodka, cable TV, and Hollywood. Diddy wasn't just building wealth, he was building a legacy. But legacies come with shadows. And for years, whispers followed Diddy, whispers of violence, manipulation, and power plays behind the scenes. For the longest time, none of it stuck. He danced around controversy, like he did in his iconic videos, smooth, untouchable, golden, until he wasn't. In October 2025, it all came crashing down. After a sweeping federal investigation, Diddy was sentenced to 50 months in federal prison, with credit for just over a year already served. The charges, a sealed mix of financial crimes, witnessed intimidation, and a deeper federal probe, tied 2 years of alleged misdeeds within his corporate and entertainment circle. Not all of it has seen the public yet, and much of it may never be tried openly. But behind the scenes, the walls clearly closed in fast. Authorities moved swiftly. Within months, Diddy went from penthouses to a locked cell at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, widely criticized as one of the harshest federal facilities on the East Coast. The man who once flew coast to coast on a whim in his private jet was now stuck behind reinforced steel as investigators continued digging. The arrest broke wide open what had long been whispered in Hollywood boardrooms and music industry basements. Diddy wasn't untouchable anymore. His deals froze. Endorsements backed away. Former friends, collaborators, even employees began speaking out. Civil suits started stacking. And most painfully of all, his family started planning. Because while Diddy sat in a cell with limited contact and even less control, his empire didn't stop moving. Someone had to manage the money, keep the jets fueled, pay the staff, protect the properties, or start carving off their share. His longtime protector and mother, Janice Combs, stepped in to manage his assets, for now. But not everyone in the family was on board with that, especially his kids. And just like that, once the gate closed behind Diddy, the knives came out, even within his own house. When Sean "Diddy" Combs was sentenced, the world turned its eyes on the courtroom. But almost immediately after, attention shifted somewhere else. To his kids. The Combs children, once mostly known as Diddy's polished, well-dressed plus ones on red carpets, have suddenly found themselves front and center. Not for musical talent or business ventures, but for the lavish lifestyles they're living while their father sits behind bars. Let's break it down. First up is Quincy Brown, 34, the son of the late Kim Porter and singer Al B. Sure. Though Diddy raised him as his own, Quincy's a model, actor, and musician with steady Hollywood exposure, but not enough work to explain the recent flood of exotic getaways and high-end wardrobe flexes he has been posting online. Then there's Justin Combs, 31, once a UCLA football star with a degree to match. Justin S., known more today for luxurious Miami nights and flashy parties, the kind that stay hidden in story highlights, unless you're watching close. Christian King Combs, 27, has carved out a real music career, following directly in his dad's footsteps. But in March, while his father sat in federal custody, King was seen riding camels in Mexico, modeling designer jackets, and shopping for six-figure jewelry pieces with his girlfriend. The optics weren't subtle, and they didn't go unnoticed. Chance, the 19-year-old daughter Diddy shares with Sarah Chapman, leans toward the influencer world. Think horseback rides on luxurious beaches and professional style. Photo shoots taken in destinations most teens only dream about. Her mother, by the way, reportedly advising her through all of this. As for the twin girls, Delilah and Jessie, both 18, they've become social media darlings. From matching designer swimsuits on yachts in St. Bart's to footage of their travels from Paris to the Caribbean, the twins are living their life, and living it publicly. And finally, there's Love Sean Combs, his youngest child, born in 2022 to cybersecurity specialist Dana Tran. She's still a baby, but even she reportedly flies private. These kids, beautiful, branded, and well-connected, have taken over social feeds with beaches, bling, first-class flights, and fashion houses on tap. And at the center of all of it is the empire their father built. Not with them, for them. The real question is surfacing now. Are they just living life the way they've always known, or are they bleeding the empire dry while the king is stuck behind bars? Fans and followers have taken notice. One comment under Christian S. Mexico trip photo summed up the public mood perfectly. Your dad S. in jail and why all are on camels. Because while the kids look unbothered, smiling on yachts, stepping off runways, shading their eyes from the sun, their one thing they haven't done. Step away from the spotlight. The internet watched in shock as Diddy's kids flaunted everything, including what might actually belong to the empire's next ruler. Before Puffy was a global brand, before the yachts, matching suits, and honorary titles, there was Janice Combs. She's not just Diddy's mom, she's the origin story of everything he became. Born in the heart of Harlem, Janice Combs is 85. But don't let the number fool you. Insiders say she is still sharper than most billionaire advisors in the room. Long before the private jets and liquor lines, she worked as a model and a teacher's aide, grinding through life after tragedy struck early. Her husband, Melvin Combs, was murdered in 1972 when Diddy was just a toddler. That moment didn't break her, it forged her. She raised 2 children on her own, in one of the toughest eras for black families in New York. It was Janice who instilled that now famous Diddy hustle, ambition, image, and obsession with legacy. She wasn't just a parent, she was his foundation. Fast forward to today, and somehow, through all the scandals, lawsuits, and now federal time, Janice is still standing guard. Insiders say that with Diddy locked behind bars, it was Janice who stepped in to control access to his estate, overseeing the flow of money, managing expenses, and keeping certain properties and business affairs intact. Not through some power grab, but because her son trusted her more than anyone. But here's where things get complicated. That decision, Diddy handing temporary financial authority to his mother, has reportedly sent shockwaves through the younger Combs generation. Whispers claim that some of the kids feel iced out. Others believe Janice is too old school, too inflexible, or simply too protective to let them access what they see as rightfully theirs. She's not in it for clout or designer posts. She wants stability, control, discipline, and that doesn't sit well in a family where ultra-rich 20-somethings live like royalty. But if they think Janice Combs is some fragile, out-of-touch grandmother who can be pushed aside, they couldn't be more wrong. Sources close to the family say, Janice still holds court at the center of every major decision. She's old-school Harlem, the kind of tough that doesn't post Instagram quotes. She is the quote. Janice isn't new to the fight. She raised a mogul after witnessing her husband's murder. If anyone's ready for battle, it's her. The silent war has already started. And Janice, she's standing her ground. With Diddy sitting behind bars and Janice Combs quietly holding the reins to his $400 million empire, the sense of urgency inside the Combs family has hit a whole new level. But this time, it's not about saving the family name, it's about claiming the power to control it. Multiple insiders confirm, at least several of Diddy's children have already retained legal counsel. But this isn't public court drama, not yet. What's happening behind the scenes is something far more sophisticated and far more calculated. It's not about snapping inheritance chains or breaking up companies. At least, that's not how it's being framed. The technical term floating through rooms filled with expensive lawyers and nervous advisors, power of attorney, that's the legal key to the kingdom. The ability to sign checks, move assets, sell, buy, or even restructure entire holdings. Currently, it's believed that Janice holds that power, whether officially or by trusted default. But now, whispers are growing louder that some of the Combs children are quietly pushing for that authority to shift permanently. On paper, it's all under the guise of concern over Janice's age, over the scale of the operation, over whether she is capable, or even safe, being the sole point of control amidst ongoing federal scrutiny. But let's not play pretend. This isn't about concern. Not really. Behind the legal jargon is the real subtext: access. Whoever holds that power doesn't just cut checks. They get to protect, reshape, or dismantle the empire on their terms. And the deeper question that keeps surfacing is this: are these legal moves about protecting the family fortune, or about securing the best seat at the table while the king is away? What's more, sources say this legal strategy isn't being approached equally across the kids. Some are aligning with Janice, either out of loyalty or long-term planning. Others are allegedly pushing fast, hungry to move the foundation somewhere with less resistance. And court filings, they could come next if Janice refuses to step down voluntarily. What makes this moment so dangerous isn't the drama, it's the silence. No public statements, no direct battles, just lawyers, motions, documents, confidential meetings, and a slow-motion power transfer with hundreds of millions at stake. In the world of elite families, lawsuits replace fistfights, and Diddy's kids just put Janice on notice. And remember, this is all happening while the empire's builder can only watch from behind prison walls, almost powerless to stop it. If anyone thought that Diddy's prison sentence would put a pause on the Combs lifestyle, they clearly don't know this family. Even with the king behind bars, the royal court hasn't missed a beat or a flight. Over the last several months, Diddy's children have been spotted all over the globe, from St. Bart's yacht parties to camel rides in Mexico, from beachfront villas in Italy to shopping sprees in Beverly Hills. The Combs clan has been living large, and we're not talking about occasional getaways. This has been a full-blown luxury tour, fueled by private jets, exclusive resorts, and wardrobes that cost more than some people's homes. But here's where things start to raise questions, not just from fans, but from people inside the circle. The number being whispered by industry insiders: $100,000 per private flight, minimum, fuel, crew, ground handling, maintenance, insurance, catering, security, baggage teams. The real price tag for just one international hop on Diddy's jet is sky high, and his kids have been using it like an Uber. Photos show the twins, Jesse and Delilah, rocking matching designer bikinis on a luxury yacht during a Caribbean getaway that reportedly racked up 6 figures in less than 3 days. Christian, flashing diamond-encrusted watches one week, then seen touring the Riviera the next. Chance uploaded a photo horseback riding on a beach in what looked like private resort land. Quincy was spotted poolside with friends on what appeared to be a remote estate in Asia, with a personal chef in the background. Some of these trips and splurges have sponsors. Sure, influencer perks are real, but the sheer volume of exclusive travel and the zero slowdown since Diddy's sentencing has people talking loudly. And then came the term that started catching on in fan comments and online threads: financial looting. It sounds extreme and maybe unfair, but it reflects a growing sentiment that instead of locking down and preserving the empire while Diddy serves out his sentence, some of his kids may be emptying the vault while the door's still open. To be clear, no one has officially accused the Combs children of wrongdoing, but with no confirmed trust in place, no bank officially managing Diddy's assets, and no public accounting of how the money is being spent, the spending spree has sparked concern even from people once loyal to the family. Because when private jets are still flying, not for business but for birthday parties and vibe tours, someone's footing the bill. Even with Diddy behind bars, the business kept flying, literally. The question is, who's paying the pilot? And if Janice is the one holding the checkbook, she may be the last thing standing between Diddy's empire and financial freefall. From the outside, the Combs family has always looked polished, perfectly dressed, coordinated at events, grinning for the cameras like America's royal hip-hop dynasty. But behind the curated images and high-gloss optics, the fractures are starting to split wide open. Insiders say the once unshakable family front is crumbling from the inside, and fast. Rumors have begun swirling about growing rifts between the siblings, with jealousy, silent alliances, and legal maneuvering revealing a darker reality. Not all of Diddy's children are on the same team anymore. Some, sources claim, are still loyal to Janice, respecting the grandmother who stood beside their father through every scandal, setback, and success. Others, especially those more plugged into Hollywood and brand partnerships, are allegedly pushing hard behind closed doors to separate her from the financial controls. Too old, too careful, too disconnected from the pulse of today's business deals, they say. But it's not just about age, it's about influence. Whoever holds the power to direct funds, sign off on strategy, or even access estates during Diddy's absence holds the throne. And the problem? This is a family of half-siblings, 7 children from different mothers, raised in very different homes, with very different outlooks on what the Combs legacy even means. Some were raised in the spotlight, seated at VIP tables from toddlerhood. Others lived quieter, more private early lives. One child may see the empire as something they re-entitled to expand. Another may view it as something that must be protected at all costs. And when those ideologies clash in a family with no centralized power, chaos follows. Multiple sources close to the situation say there have already been heated conversations, subtle betrayal, and even full-blown cutoffs between certain siblings. While none have come out publicly, the digital clues are piling up: unfollowed accounts, cryptic captions, and certain family members being noticeably absent from recent lavish vacations. The common thread: greed replacing loyalty. The same empire that Diddy worked decades to build is now at risk of being picked apart, not by outsiders, but by his own bloodline, each trying to secure their share before the music stops. In the race to claim control, unity shattered. Siblings are choosing sides, and the empire is cracking at its core. And with no clear line of succession, and no one willing to back down, it may only be a matter of time before this private war turns painfully public. For a man who once controlled an empire with a phone call, Diddy's silence now speaks volumes. From inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, one of the most restrictive federal facilities in the country, Sean Combs no longer makes the rules. Visitation is limited, monitored, and heavily delayed. Phone calls are restricted. Emails are censored. There's no private boardroom, no round table of executives waiting on his input, just a concrete cell and a schedule set by someone else. And in the world of high finance, silence is dangerous. So, what exactly can Diddy still do from prison? Legally, he's not completely stripped of power. As the CEO and founder of various businesses, from Bad Boy Records to Revolt TV stakes, fashion assets, and brand partnerships, Diddy technically retains ownership. But control is a whole different story, unless a clear power of attorney POA was granted before sentencing, or unless he establishes one now through legal channels. Much of the immediate decision-making falls to whoever has access to his financial documents, business accounts, and legal authority. Right now, multiple sources suggest that Janice, his mother, is the default point of contact, trusted, familiar, and consistent. But that trust is now under attack. And because Diddy didn't set up a known living trust, estate planning experts say he's left his empire vulnerable. Without a structured succession plan, the kind handed off with airtight legal protections, his assets are in limbo, bouncing between emotional decisions and external pressure. One Massachusetts-based estate attorney explained it plainly: if he waits too long, the people surrounding him today may not be the ones protecting his empire tomorrow. Chaos is what happens when clarity isn't built into a fortune this size. That chaos is already boiling over. We've got lawyers being hired, siblings turning on siblings, and Diddy, the one man who could shut it all down, is locked out of the conversations happening in boardrooms, homes, and group chats across the country. Every day that passes, he loses more leverage, and the cracks in the structure grow deeper. And even if he tries to intervene legally from prison, that process is slow, complicated, and not guaranteed to succeed. The court system wasn't built for moguls to micromanage empires from the inside of a cell block, and the longer the silence continues, the louder the chaos becomes. Prison silenced his voice, but not the noise around his name. or the chaos erupting in his absence. Right now, Diddy's most valuable asset may not be his money or his name, it's time, and he's running out of both. When people think of inheritance drama, they often picture what happens after someone passes. But in the rare era of celebrity dynasties and billionaire empires, the game starts long before the will is ever read, and that's exactly what appears to be playing out in the Combs family right now. This isn't just a short-lived scramble to cover business bills or keep up appearances while Diddy serves time. According to multiple insiders and legal experts, this is about staking claims on the future and cementing positions. In the next chapter of what could become one of the most valuable legacies in hip-hop history, let's break it down. Diddy's empire spans across music, fashion, media, and real estate. Music royalties from decades of bad boy hits. We're talking about global, evergreen anthems that generate residual income year after year. Ownership or partial stakes in brands like Sean John and CROC Vodka, along with cash flush assets tied to Revolt TV and other media ventures. Large-scale property holdings, including mansions in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, and Georgia, all of which require maintenance, staff, taxes, and protection. Investments in startups and entertainment tech, some private, some public-facing, that could drastically swing in value depending on who controls them. All told, the estimated value circles around $400 million, but some believe undocumented holdings and overseas assets could make that number higher. That's a massive pie, and with no reported living trust, the slices are anything but guaranteed. Now, here's where the real motive becomes clear. If Diddy's children, or anyone inside the inner circle, can plant themselves as financial stewards or company figureheads now, they're not just managing his legacy, they're potentially shaping who inherits what later. Legal precedents exist, in cases like Prince, Aretha Franklin, and even James Brown. Messy, unstructured estates led to decade-long court battles, lawsuits between siblings, and millions in lost assets. Why? Because no one had a clear succession plan, and courts ended up having to decide everything from ownership of songs to who got the grandmother's house. Some fear Diddy's estate is poised to follow the same path, without legal documentation naming permanent trustees, business successors, or inheritance breakdowns. Whoever controls the finances now essentially holds the map to the future, and whether intentional or not, moves are already being made behind the scenes to get ahead of the curve. Influencer brand deals, ownership shares in LLCs, family office titles thrown around in quiet circles. This isn't just a short-term takeover, it is a long game for the future of hip-hop royalty. And with Diddy locked out, the heirs are making their own power plays, all while the true legal throne remains unclaimed. While the heirs strategize, while the lawyers dig in and, while Diddy remains locked away, unable to steer his own ship, one person is refusing to move. Janice Combs, at 85 years old, she's been here since before the fame, before the music, and before the billion-dollar empire. And now, in what may be her family's most pivotal moment, she's drawing a line in the sand. According to family insiders, Janice isn't surrendering control quietly. In fact, recent reports suggest that she has taken proactive steps to protect what's left of Diddy's legacy, including retaining her own team of legal advisors. If her children and grandchildren thought they could sidestep her through quiet legal filings or polite pressure, they've underestimated her. Badly. She may not post on social media or walk red carpets anymore, but don't mistake that for weakness. Janice has navigated 5 decades of industry chaos, personal tragedy, and financial complexity with grit that's rarely spotlighted, but deeply feared. She stood by Diddy through his father's murder, through scandal after scandal, through courtroom battles and never blinked. Now, she's the final obstacle standing between a spiraling empire and total collapse. Multiple sources close to the family say Janice has refused requests to hand over power of attorney, despite rising pressure from some of her grandchildren. She allegedly cited concern over maturity and respect for the legacy in internal conversations. Translation: she doesn't trust the younger generation, at least, not yet with the full keys to the kingdom. But this isn't just business for her. This is emotional. At her age, she knows the finish line is closer than ever. And what good is living to see your life's work implode, carved up by luxury-hungry heirs with more followers than life experience? For Janice, this isn't just about money. It's about honor. It's about legacy. It's about protecting her son's name, even while that name is being dragged through the headlines. But the toll is showing. Friends say the pressure is immense. The quiet meetings, the legal consultations, the family she fought to keep together now treating her like a temporary obstacle. And day by day, she's being forced to decide, protect the business, or protect the family. In an empire built on outsized egos, flash, and fame, Janice Combs now sits alone at the center, a lioness guarding the gates, weathered by battle, and surrounded by those who once called her grandma. While the heirs circle, Janice stands alone, the last gatekeeper between Diddy's legacy and possible destruction. And the reality, she might not win this fight, but she's going down swinging. Right now, the Combs estate ice and tea just in limbo, it's teetering on a knife's edge. Behind the designer's smiles, birthday posts, and first-class flights, the war inside Diddy's empire is accelerating. Janice is holding the gate, the kids are circling, and legal teams on both sides, quietly preparing for a possible courtroom collision that could drag this family feud into the headlines for months, or even years. Sources close to the family say the tension has reached a breaking point. If no agreement is reached soon on how the empire should be managed, and by whom, the situation is almost guaranteed to turn public. That means filings, discovery, depositions, and everything the Combs dynasty has worked so hard to keep private, put on blast. There's even talk that a neutral third party, possibly a bank or estate management firm, could be appointed to take over Diddy's finances. The logic is simple. Remove emotion, remove power struggles, and let the math and paperwork dictate the future. But for a family this complex, with so much cultural capital tied up in the name, that decision could trigger an even deeper divide. Meanwhile, legal experts say Diddy still has one final move left, but time is slipping. If he acts fast from inside prison, he may be able to restructure his estate, establish a living trust, and create a clear line of succession that bypasses courtroom chaos. But doing that from federal custody isn't easy, and it requires navigating attorneys, trust advisors, and legal loopholes under tight communication restrictions. The question is, will he act in time? And if he does, who will he trust to carry the torch? Janice, one of his older sons, a professional manager, or does he try to cobble together a board of loyalists from behind bars? The world's watching, but more importantly, so are his rivals, some within his own house, because there's something almost Shakespearean about what's unfolding now. The king is captive, the heir list is long, the council is fractured, and the crown very much up for grabs. When family becomes your fiercest rival, who do you trust with everything you've built? The coming months will decide if the Combs name maintains its legacy, or becomes yet another cautionary tale of success, scandal, and succession gone wrong. From the outside, the Combs family built a modern dynasty, one forged in music, wealth, luxury, and generational black excellence. But in just a matter of months, that polished image has unraveled into something far messier, a deeply personal, high-stakes power struggle that threatens to dismantle Sean Diddy Combs' entire legacy. It started with a prison sentence. Now it's turned into a silent civil war. We've watched as his 7 children, each raised in different homes, with different mothers, carrying different expectations, begin drawing battle lines. We've watched as his mother, Janice, rises as the last loyal sentry, refusing to hand over the reins. And we've seen the money move faster, the jets stay fueled, and the empire begin to feel like a free-for-all with no clear leader in control. What's really happening here? Is this a story of heirs stepping up to protect their father's fortune from mismanagement, or a cold calculation to seize power and divide the spoils while he can't fight back? And deeper still, how does a man like Diddy, who built his kingdom from mixtapes and grit, preserve it from within a cage? In the end, it comes down to questions that money can't answer. What matters most, power, loyalty, or legacy? And when those three start pulling in opposite directions, which one survives? Right now, this isn't just about business contracts or inheritance law. It's about a larger, more dangerous truth playing out in real time. Are the children just trying to protect what's theirs, or are they cashing in before the will is even written? The Combs empire may still stand on the surface, but behind the scenes, the foundation is shaking. One thing's certain, Diddy may be behind bars, but the real battle for his kingdom is only just beginning.